It's the Chronicles of a Gooner, it's the live phone-in, and we are back.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello, good evening, and welcome back to another live edition of the Fans Phone-In. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this episode, we're going to be talking all things Arsenal. The floor is yours. You can say whatever you want about whatever you want about the mighty Arsenal on this show. I'm going to be taking as many of your calls as I possibly can between now and 9:30 p.m. So we've got an hour to run, so I look forward to talking to as many of you as I possibly can. Just a quick reminder of how you can participate if you wish to do so. All you need to do is DM me on Twitter at Chronicles_AFC, and we will fire you a link right back. It is on a first come first serve basis. I will try and get through as many as I possibly can, so just bear with me if you're having to wait a little bit. I do apologise, but like I say, I want to get through as many of you as I possibly can, and I recognise that especially after yesterday, there's going to be a lot of people with a lot to say about Arsenal and where they currently find themselves. If you haven't checked out my review of the game, then feel free to do so. It's the last video on the channel. And if you're listening via the audio, it's the last episode on the podcast. Didn't really want to do it the next day, but had to because of work reasons. And I think actually now that I think about it, it was probably better to do it that way because I was a little bit calmer, a little bit cooler. And I think I gave a better representation of the game than maybe I would have given, 5-10 minutes after the full-time whistle. So check that out if you haven't done so already. Right, without further ado, let's bring in our first caller. He's one of our members right here on the Chronicles of a Gooner. And if you want to become a member, all you need to do is click on the link in the description from which you can sign up. We'd love to have you. But welcome to the show, Mr. T Talks. How you doing, bro?
I'm all right, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. What do you want to say, mate? First of all, what are you making of the whole situation at Arsenal at the minute? I know there's a bit of a split in the camp right now around Mikel Arteta. Is he the right man? Are we moving in the right direction? What's your kind of general thoughts on where Arsenal are at as a team right now?
Well, I think as many people in the Discord server and many members are believing, we are in a transition period at the moment. So if you'd like to say I'm Arteta in, to choose what side of the camp I'm on, I'd say yeah, I'm in the Arteta in camp, and I've been quite pleased in recent months from what I've seen in terms of our development as we are in transition, as I said. So yeah, that's just my first thing. That's what I'd like to say. Yeah. But in terms of the game last year, well, it feels like ages ago. Well, I've cooled down a lot from when I first saw the game with the result, with all the decisions and everything. So I'm glad that you chose to do this after as well. And I think that kind of reflected in your earlier stream today. So for me, it was just an epitome of our season, which is what you put up on Twitter. The errors, the lack of ruthlessness, and the controversial decisions, as we've seen many a time with us. But yeah, but that's it in terms of that game. But what I really wanted to speak about was...
Go ahead, mate. Floor's yours.
I believe since our 2-1 defeat to Everton, Mikel Arteta has set up the team at the best of his ability. Because I looked at the results just before we did this and just before you allowed me to come in. I saw that in the games that we have drawn or lost, it's literally been down to controversial decisions like the Wolves game, errors, which you could also bring up in the Wolves game, and Aston Villa, and missed chances. Whereas people, as fans, were blaming Mikel Arteta in the Southampton defeat in the FA Cup for rotation. But if we look at it, players like Eddie Nketiah had chances. Yesterday, missed chances again. And as it was the epitome of our season. So I just don't feel that it's fair to totally criticise Mikel Arteta now, since that Everton defeat. Prior to that, I'm not gonna lie, I had my doubts, like you did, as I remember seeing in your podcast as well, because the performances were dire. We showed no creativity. We didn't really create any chances, and the goals that we conceded were from errors, like as it is now. But there's a big difference in what I see. So yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah, I feel like that as well. I feel like, I get what people are saying. I get that ultimately the manager, right, is responsible for the results of the football team. He's responsible for where we find ourselves in the division. I just think you need to look a bit deeper than that when you're analysing this Arsenal team, And we talk about the upturn in performances. There certainly has been an upturn in performances. There's no getting away from that, We're playing better football. We're creating more opportunities. And when you do all of those things, and defensively, although we made a complete and utter cock-up yesterday, when you look at us defensively as a unit, we're not giving away anywhere near as many chances. That's ultimately the manager's job, right? Put the players out on the pitch to be defensively sound, to be creative, and then the rest, it's over to them, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I see the massive difference between Emery, because I was like you. That's how I actually started to know you, seeing you on 90 min on the gas tank, and then that's when I started to follow you, because at the time when you was with your disbelief and you wasn't really sure about Emery, is because I looked at it deeper like yourself. The performances, we was conceding way more chances, and it felt like our goals were individual brilliance, which is what you see what Man United fans are complaining about with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We was relying on individual moments and luck. Leno was one of our players of the season last season because of all the work he had to do. Whereas Leno doesn't really get tested that much nowadays. Our defence looks a lot more solid when we're not on the edge of our seats waiting for an error. So yeah, I feel like Mikel has done that. Definitely set the team up well. We create chances. And this is where I wanted to ask you a question, because I don't understand the criticism of Arteta's substitutions, not just in the last game against Burnley. Like I've been seeing on other Arsenal podcasts and speaking to other Arsenal fans. But I feel like he gets a lot of criticism for not bringing on Martinelli. Why is also just in the starting lineup? Why is it Pepe starting? I don't understand that in the end, because we do create the chances.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think you're right. I think the frustrating thing for me is that when he does make a change, people are so desperate for it to fail. It feels like, you looked at the game against Benfica, the second leg against Benfica. And those of you that were joining me for the watch along on that would have seen me go absolutely mad, because Willian came on and everybody automatically, we're not going to get through now because Willian's on the pitch. Well, ultimately, Willian made the difference that night. And yesterday he made changes again and again. People were getting on his back about those changes. People crying out for Nicolas Pepe to start. Listen, I think Nicolas Pepe's improved of late. But at the end of the day, he missed a glorious opportunity yesterday to win us the football match. And you have to look at that as well. If Nicolas Pepe was that good this season and performing that consistently, like Bukayo Saka, there would be no question about him being in the team. But that question is there because the performances haven't always been there. And I think Mikel Arteta is having to rotate for a number of reasons that fans, for whatever reason, just want to overlook all the time. T, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Really, really appreciate it. I got to move on just because I've got a few people lined up, but thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me. And don't forget to leave a like, guys. Come on.
There you go. Don't forget to leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And if you want to become a member, you can do so by clicking on the link in the description. T, thank you so much, mate.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Take care.
it.
See you.
Cheers, pal. That was the brilliant T. Let's move on to our next caller. Just conscious, I don't want to waste too much time so we can get through as many as we possibly can. Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, Mr. Harry. Great name. How are you, sir?
I'm not bad, mate. How are you doing?
I'm okay, mate. I've had quite a nice day today. I've had one of those days where I've been paying attention to what's going on in the football, keeping up with the scores, all of that stuff. But I haven't been glued to the TV all day. I've stayed away from it a little bit. Had a nice barbecue and feeling a little bit refreshed, man. And but I know that this conversation is probably going to end in me feeling a little bit down and miserable again, mate. What have you made of what's gone on over the last sort of 24 hours or so?
Well, yeah, I did the same as you, to be honest. After the game yesterday, I was fuming and venting, and what feels like arguing amongst your fellow Arsenal fans, and then today I made a conscious decision to escape anything of Arsenal related. So ignoring the Discord servers and stuff, because I just find myself just getting angry at how frustrating we are as a club at the moment. I did watch the highlights just before I popped on again, just to gain some perspective. And the truth is, yesterday we played well in parts, and when we did have the ball, we created lots of chances. But as you just discussed, we don't take those chances, and vulnerability or mistakes, however you want to call it, seem to cost us. And that's not an excuse for Arteta, but we just can't seem to catch a break consistently. And whilst we don't convert those chances, it just seems that we just concede a goal. However, I don't know if you remember that Sunderland goal. That was it. Darren Bent scored against Liverpool with the ball, the beach ball on the pitch. Yeah, it feels like I'm just waiting for that to happen next, because we're just conceding the most avoidable goals, and I'm always trying to fight the Granit Xhaka fight and protect him at all costs, and then it kind of goes and lets you down yesterday. So it's hard, and it's hard not to feel deflated. And I'm certainly not going to question Arteta, but there does come a time when you start to question the individuals in terms of their errors, or the fact that they can be seen as repeat offenders, and then it makes you wonder, is that always going to happen? So I really like Granit Xhaka, and I was just looking at his stats before he came on, and he literally takes the most touches out of all the Arsenal players every game. His pass completion is right up there. His passes into the final third are always the highest. So I know his value, and I know his role, and I know his importance to how we function as a team. But then you say, if those mistakes are always going to happen, whether they're avoidable or not, come the summer, do you say, well, actually, we need to move on these players to start fresh, to get rid of that perhaps mental weakness in the team, or whether it's a psychological impact? Like, take David Luiz, for example. If you asked me a month ago, I was all for the contract extension. And even though his performances have been good, part of me thinks, is this always going to happen? Like, are you going to get 10 good games and a random error? And even if the error is not necessarily his fault, i.e. a refereeing decision, it's still an error that costs the team, and it still leaves you in a bad position. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And I know we can't sign players now. And I know Xhaka and David Luiz are probably the best of what we've got. But I do wonder how ruthless Arteta will be in the summer and what he'll prioritise, because I think it will have a key impact to how we progress. Sorry, I went off there for about 2 minutes.
No, that's all right. That's all right. This sounds stupid, what I'm about to say, and I know I'm going to get some stick for this, because I always get stick. You just become immune to it after a while. But I don't think that Mikel Arteta will be particularly bothered by that error that Granit Xhaka made yesterday. And I'll explain why, because it sounds like a silly comment and a silly statement to make. Mikel Arteta will have known when he instructed his team from the very first day he took over the job to play the ball out from the back, that there is an associated risk with that. And this is not me just saying this now. I used to say it when Unai Emery was in charge. I say it when I talk about Man City and Pep Guardiola. I say it about all the teams that play that way. In the manager's eyes, the reward of playing out from the back that way outweighs the risk. And yes, Granit Xhaka made a very bad error yesterday, but ultimately that he made the error trying to do what Mikel Arteta wants him to do. And I think managers over the course of the season will look at the bigger picture of that and understand that actually, yeah, we got it wrong yesterday and it was a mistake, but ultimately that is what he wants to see from his team. That's what he wants to see from his players. And I think we have to understand that as well. And as fans, maybe we have to take that view. Mikel Arteta pointed it out post-match. The first goal that Arsenal scored, or the goal that Arsenal scored, came from playing out from the back. And the chance we conceded, from which Chris Wood probably could have won the game for Burnley, came off the back of us playing a long ball. So Mikel Arteta won't be so bothered about that error. He won't be as bothered as some of us are. And I just think, like, for me, what drives me mad, and look, it's a bad piece of defending. It's a bad mistake. But ultimately, Dani Ceballos almost got us dumped out of the Europa League a few nights ago. And that wasn't met with anywhere near the same level of criticism. Cedric made a mistake at Aston Villa. These mistakes are happening all over the pitch. And people keep telling me about that stat. Granit Xhaka's made 8 errors that lead to goals. But when was number 7? You can't deny that there is an improvement there.
Totally.
Yeah, go on, mate.
It feels like when you protect Granit Xhaka, it feels like you're in court, and everyone that's anti-Granit Xhaka has this evidence. Like, but this happened and this happened and this happened. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna dismiss Granit Xhaka because of a red card he got in his first season. I'm not counting those errors. If a striker doesn't score goals for 2 seasons and then he bangs 30 goals in that season, but then he misses a penalty in the last game of the season, you're not going to go, oh yeah, but he used to miss chances back in the day. So I don't want to criticize Granit Xhaka for his previous errors, and I don't think we should be. And if people are even saying about the Leicester goal, I'm like, well, firstly, Willian was just his fault because he stitched Xhaka up when he passed him the ball originally, if you watch that again. Then when Granit Xhaka does pass it to Willian just like lets Tielemans get straight in front of him. So
and
we
Pablo
can't criticize
chasing something else.
yeah, so obviously some mistakes look worse than others, i.e. yesterday, and that's when you go, that is a blunder. Other mistakes and red cards, people are bringing up, well, he's got 40 yellow cards. I mean, I know Patrick Vieira was absolutely world class, but his disciplinary record was awful. It's something that we used to almost brag about, like players getting stuck in and get bookings. If Jack Wilshere ever did it, to get a round of applause. So I totally get the criticism of Granit Xhaka. My fear is that psychologically, because he's in that space and maybe he feels a bit fragile at times, I do wonder if those errors will ever escape him, whether it's a red card or a blunder. That's my only fear. And I'm not doubting the ability of Granit Xhaka or the importance of him. I think he's vital to how we play, and you only have to look at the stats to see that. And this whole he only passes sideways and backwards is just an absolute myth. It's a pure myth. So I know how important he is, but I just do wonder if he can overcome all of these mistakes. But hopefully he can.
You could see how impacted he was by that yesterday, and you could see how some of his teammates took it as well, which is another subject altogether. But Harry, thank you so much, mate. I got to move on just because I've got to get through all the calls. But thank you so much, mate, and thanks for your continued support of the channel. All the best, mate.
No worries. All the best. All the best.
That was the brilliant Harry. Let's bring in our next caller, Shings. How you doing?
Yes, Harry. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad, mate. I'm not bad. Because usually what I do after an Arsenal game, I watch match of the day. I watch all the, post match. But yesterday I was just so angry. I just like, you know what? No football for me for the rest of the night, and just I stayed away from it. Like I'm still listening to your match reaction because I was just like, no, I'm, everything Arsenal burning right now. I just didn't want to know, but I don't know. What do you?
I know what you mean, because yesterday I had to. As soon as the game finished, I had to head down to the studio for commentary on Aston Villa Wolves, and I didn't want to watch any football. And and that football was dire as well, which made it even worse. I get what you mean.
I've
Terrible.
Heard. It's just what it is, though. It's just like yes, Xhaka made a mistake, but then I heard you saying when people call out Xhaka, but then you had Pepper who missed a glorious chance, in my opinion. That he should be putting that way, or at least isn't the target with that one. But like somehow some fast strikers get a free pass when they miss a chance, or But the only reason why the game was so late is just because we should have been home and dry really in the first half.
Yeah.
That mistake or not, we should have been home and dry. Let's be honest. But we didn't take our chances, and then I don't know. I just felt we didn't start the second half fast enough. I wanted to see all guns blazing, but I don't know. Just frustrating because I wanted to win because we've got our next 2 games are big games. So getting some momentum going into those games, that would have been brilliant. But
for sure, I mean, for me, you mentioned like the other guys getting off kind of scot-free for missing opportunities and stuff, and I guess I look at it as Arsenal lost the game, or it feels like we lost. We didn't even lose.
It does.
Arsenal didn't win. Didn't win.
I know, but it feels like because we had the game, we were 1-0 up. We were controlling the game. Let's be honest, we were controlling the game, and then up until that point, it sort of turned a little bit. So it does feel like a loss. Yes,
it feels like a loss, but ultimately, the reason Arsenal didn't win that game is for 3 reasons. Granit Xhaka was one of them. Agreed. His mistake was one of them, but it was ultimately down to missed chances and the fact that for whatever reason, the officials decided that wasn't a penalty against Eric Peters. Absolutely ludicrous decision.
That's another one.
Ludicrous decision. It was terrible. I'm seeing in the chat that Spurs are absolutely killing Crystal Palace, which is I had a 10-1 bet on today, and all I needed was for the Spurs game to have less than 2.5 goals in it to cash it. Everything else had gone to plan today.
I saw it
And
was
then that,
3-1. I don't know.
yeah, it's 4 now. 4 now.
Oh, great.
4 now. Shings, what are you making of the whole situation at the moment? I mean, there are a lot of people that are still fully behind Mikel Arteta. There are a lot of people that aren't. There are some people that are on the fence. Are you starting to feel a little bit worried now that maybe this job is just a little bit too big for him?
Yeah and no. I'm on the fence a little bit, yes, but I'm encouraged by certain things I've seen, and obviously certain things that we spoke about, Harry, like the defensive record and all that, But I'm also on the fence because I'm thinking to myself, well, Mikel Arteta, this is your first job in management, but I think people forget this is Arsenal Football Club. This is not a joke. This is not a club you can go to and have a trial period and try out all this player work. This is Arsenal Football Club. I don't know, maybe I don't know, because I expect more from our club. Where we are right now, it's not good enough, and I'm just getting scared that if we carry on this process, we're getting left behind, because I feel like every season now teams are getting better, and it just feels like we're just miles away, and it's just worrying. And like I said, I will give him this window and next year. I think this summer is probably the most important summer for Arsenal in a long, long, long time. Not just for Mikel, for the board, for the owners as well. I think we need a good, strong summer, one way or another. Getting rid of Deadwood, getting the right players in, getting the, So I don't know. What do you think? Are you on the fence or are you unsure, Harry?
I'm still confident that he is the right man. I've said it before, and I've taken pelters from it. I've said that part of that is down to gut feeling.
Yeah,
and I'm going to trust that gut feeling, because that gut feeling when it came to Unai Emery was absolutely right. I thought very early on that he wasn't the right man, and over time I started to see more and more reasons to kind of back up what my initial viewpoint was. And when it comes to Mikel Arteta, I do see reasons to be optimistic, reasons to be hopeful. And I do feel like when you look at the margins from which we're losing games, I think or not winning games, I think it's very difficult to to pin the blame solely on him. Although I do ultimately accept.
No, that's true, Harry. Especially if you look at like the errors and stuff and little things like that. Yeah. So on that part, I do agree. Yes, I'm just a bit worried though, Harry. I don't know what you think. So the whole like Martinelli situation, yes, but he's not getting a kick in it at the minute. Not even, and I don't want him to get fed up and end up leaving and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and then end up, it just things like that. The whole Martinelli thing, like what's going to happen there? Because I really like Martinelli. I like what he said in interviews. I like interviews I watched. Like, he already learned English already quickly. I like the way that he plays, and I just get worried that that we'll lose him. But I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like with Martinelli, since he's come back, I feel like the rest of this season was always about Martinelli just staying fit and not picking up any recurrence of the problem that he had. I feel like that was that would have been the key. And I think that Martinelli probably understands that. And I think that the fans are kind of fighting a case for Martinelli that he doesn't really need fighting. I think that people have been moaning that Pepe wasn't in the starting lineup yesterday, yet now they're moaning that Martinelli should have played. Hold on, you can't want Pepe in, you can't want Saka in, you can't want Odegaard in, you can't want Smith Rowe in, you can't want Lacazette or Aubameyang in, and Martinelli is impossible.
The thing is, Harry, when these people that are moaning that Pep wasn't starting, and then they'll moan that the bench is not strong enough, but sometimes you need that in a game. You need a strong bench. The big teams always have something. Do you know what I mean? So. And obviously, we've got a game on Thursday, and then we've got Spurs on Sunday. So people don't understand that. Mikel probably had one eye, or not one eye, but you know what I mean? Just probably thinking, right, okay, I can't, you know what I mean? He wants to play certain players, for Thursday, or rest certain players for Thursday. So, because now Smith Rowe's out, isn't he? So
everything's on Thursday. Everything's on Thursday now.
Exactly.
Shings, thank you so much, mate. Really, really appreciate you coming on.
Sorry.
And we'll catch up soon.
Let's smash the like button, everyone.
Make sure you do. Cheers, mate. Thank you. All the best. That was the brilliant Shings. Let's move on to our next caller. Thank you for waiting very patiently in the wings. Egal, how you doing, mate? Welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
Yeah, It's been a long time. In that time, Harry, I've gotten a new career. I've started a YouTube channel myself, and it's just been a whole madness with Arsenal. Last time we spoke, I was backing Emery, and I wasn't Emery out yet. That's how long it's been.
The tables have turned. Egal, before I give you the floor, 1 second, I just want to address a couple of comments in the live chat, because this one for me is everything that's wrong with this fan base right now. Ali says, Arteta is a joke. Fuck him. Hope we lose the Europa League so he gets dashed. Imagine being an Arsenal fan, or calling yourself an Arsenal fan, and wanting Arsenal to lose the one competition, to get knocked out of the one competition that could turn this season around from a failure to a success. That is absolute bullshit, mate. That is absolute bullshit. And I get disappointed when I read stuff like that, because it's just complete and utter nonsense. What you're ultimately saying is that your anti-Arteta agenda and your anti-feelings towards Mikel Arteta are stronger than your desire to see your club succeed, which is absolute fucking nonsense. I didn't like Unai Emery, but I wanted him to win that Europa League final. I wanted him to succeed as Arsenal boss. It didn't happen for whatever reason, but I mean, to sit there and say that you want us to get knocked out of the Europa League, absolute madness. Egal, the floor is yours, mate. What do you want to say on the current situation?
I'm going to say something on that comment first. A lot of fans are disillusioned by the situation and almost bask in the glory of when we lose, and when we win, it's only because it's just this team, it's just that team. It's just when we lose, we should be embarrassed that we lost the City. If somebody is happy that we didn't get beat by like 4 or 5-0, it's your expectations have fallen. There's too much infighting. And that's cause of our disillusion as fans, Harry. We expect ourselves to be up there with Bayern Munich and the best clubs in the world. But right now, we don't realize the situation we're in. We're in a hard rebuild. And as fans, we have to understand that. But some people refuse to understand that. They refuse to listen to anything. And you know what? If you listen to Leicester fans, after we beat them, they're saying Brendan Rodgers out. Today, Liverpool fans are saying Klopp out. Every other day, there's people at the beginning of the season saying Pep Guardiola is not the man to win us another league title. Look at how silly those fans look right now. So I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just saying these are the things that we have to look at when we evaluate a manager. And I'm trying to be a little bit more in the middle, but I get called deluded because I'm looking at the reasons why Arteta's in this situation. Looking at the fact that Aubameyang wasn't firing. Looking at Partey, our number one signing, not being fit the whole entire season. Kieran Tierney being in and out. Having a situation in the midfield where Granit Xhaka is our best midfielder, but he has a bad game. The whole fan base wants him castiged. Like it's almost ridiculous. Also, Lacazette, we have a contract situation with him. At the end of the season, we're going to have to worry about him over the next few seasons. We don't know what we're going to do with him. Martinelli's been having fitness problems. Willian has been a catastrophic signing at times, but then you look at the statistics, he's clear of everybody else in his position except for Saka. So I honestly don't know what to say, Harry. I'm just going to say it comes down to a disillusioned fan base based on the situation that we're in and the precarious situation that the club is in.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let me just go back over to the comments a second. Eddie says, you're all cowards. Arteta is not good enough. Why am I I'm asking from my perspective. Was I not a coward then when Unai Emery was in charge, and then 12 months down the line, 15, 16 months down the line, I've all of a sudden become a coward? It's absolute nonsense again. I mean, it's not about being a coward. It's not about being afraid to share your opinion. It's simply about going with what you feel and going with what you think. And I think that people who make out that Mikel Arteta was going to come in, first of all, your expectations were all over the shop if you thought that we were going to waltz into the top four. We won the FA Cup, and I think that was in many ways a terrible thing for Mikel Arteta, because the level of expectation just shot through the roof. And the reality is that we were never ready for that level of expectation. And all of a sudden now, people are disillusioned. Now, I get that we should be higher up in the league. Mid-table is not good enough. There's no getting away from that. But this season still potentially has the chance to become a successful one. And if Arsenal can go far and hopefully go all the way in the Europa League, he'd have delivered his second major trophy in the space of 18 months. He'd have got us our first European trophy since the 1994 one, something that even the great Arsene Wenger didn't achieve. So let's chill out a little bit, man. Let's chill out a bit.
Let me say something. I'm not going to get on this comment, but I'm just going to say in general, right now, looking at the title of the video itself and looking, that explains it perfectly. We've missed chances all season, going back to even the first game against City. We had the 2 clear-cut chances to win that game. The game against Liverpool, Lacazette had a chance. The last game we played against Liverpool. Every single game that we played this season, we have not been clinical. Our attack has let us down more than our defense. But guess what? The easy storyline, Harry, is Arsenal's defense is the weakness. Arsenal's defense is the bad thing. If you actually look at it, our defense has not been bad this season. It's been critical errors at the wrong times. And you know what? If we do fix those errors and we have some continuity and we have some actual people in the back room who consistently recruit and bring in proper players instead of short-term fixes like Socrates and Mkhitaryan, and bring in a Soyuncu and a possibly a Rafinha. Because look at that, look at those kind of recruits that these clubs are making around us. I'm sick and tired of fans saying, hey, we don't want to look at the championship. Max Aarons is being touted as one of the best right backs in the world. He plays in the championship. Bayern Munich are after him, Harry. And fans would say, no, we don't want him because he's from the championship. That to me is the kind of mentality we have, and we have to change it as fans, because the club does see what we write, what we tweet out, and they do actually monitor that. So if they're happy, if we're happy as a fan base with the window when it's not good, they see that. When we're happy, when we're angry, they see that. So I genuinely believe our actions can be listened to by the club if we voice them properly as a fan base together.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a problem. We don't really get. We don't really get that kind of united front amongst the Arsenal fan base, and that's one of the big problems. And Harry, who was on the show a little bit earlier on, points out a really good stat as well. He says, by the way, since the new year, we're about 5th place in the form table, so it's not all bad. Agreed. Look, if Arsenal don't go on and qualify for the Champions League this season, it's not because of what's happened, in the last 3 or 4 months. And that's the kind of point here. That's why we're saying there is some progress. And another way of flipping at it, and just before I let you go, Agal, I'm going to put this to you. Had Arsenal gone and drawn at Leicester 1-1 and then beaten Burnley at the weekend, wouldn't people be looking at this in a completely different light? And the reality is that would have brought us 4 points, and we've currently picked up 4 points from those 2 games. So do you think perception is playing a big part in this, and then the nature of us failing to win games, if you like, is causing a bit of an overreaction?
Listen, no matter what you do, Harry, there's going to be people who have their opinions of the manager and they have opinions of the club, and those opinions can only be changed by the people that are actually at the club. As fans, we do a lot of infighting between each other, and a lot of agendas have sway your opinions. So, for example, what you just said right now, if we were to have picked up the 3 points against Man City, would have been the worst thing. Because if we would have picked up the 3 points against City and ended up losing to either Burnley or dropping points against Burnley and Leicester, that would have been the worst case scenario. The fact that those 3 games, look at the 3 games. We drew against Burnley, we got 3 points against Leicester, and we lost against City. Realistically, in the grand scheme of things, we should be beating Burnley, we should be beating Leicester, and Man City we don't really go into the game expecting much. So on the grand scheme of things, no matter what, you're gonna find people angry. Win, lose, or draw, we can't do nothing about it as fans. Just, I would say, don't let somebody else ruin your mood. If we win a game like Benfica, you can still be happy, voice your opinion. Don't let someone tell you you're not allowed to celebrate a win against Benfica, even in the fashion that we won, because that's when you start losing your love for the game, when other people tell you how to be a fan.
Yep, agreed. Agal, thank you so much, mate, for coming on. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll speak again soon. All the best, pal. That was the brilliant Agal. Let's move on to our next caller. Welcome. Thank you for waiting patiently. Sam, how you doing, mate?
All good, mate. How's things with you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Can't complain.
Yeah.
Can't complain. How are you feeling about all of this?
Yeah. Yesterday, like the others said, I was all footballed out after that game, mate. It seemed to all it was a very nothing game for 70 minutes, and then the last 20 minutes, from refereeing to missed chances, you just felt I don't know, but it just felt like all Arsenal fans were ready to explode watching that 20 minutes. It was this is just crazy. Everyone forgets we hit the post in the 92nd minute as well. But yeah, I think Agal put it so eloquently that I probably can't, because he's made so many good points. It's just there's comments there. It feels like the modern day football fan has been influenced by all these fan channels and rants going viral, to radio phone-ins, and the calls that go viral are rants and ridiculous calls for like a reactionary thing. And it's like, it's almost popular to be negative. It's almost like, if you're not wanting the manager out after you lose a game, you're not a real fan. Or like, why don't you care? We lost. You should want this out. It's like, no, because you've got to be realistic. And like, we've played 17 games this year, and off the top of my head, I reckon we had 3 bad performances in that run. So you got the Man City one. There was a write-off, it seemed like, the whole game. Southampton in the cup, and probably Villa, which was dismal. The rest, with our performance has been pretty consistent, really. Like, you know, you have bad days, you miss chances, you have individual errors from Xhaka, or whether it's bizarre goal we can see, like the Wolves one, Louise. It happens in football. It doesn't mean if you lose 3 games you want the manager out. I think maybe it's just Arsenal, because I don't follow fan bases as closely as just Arsenal. So like Liverpool fans, I haven't seen Liverpool fans going Klopp out, and they've lost 6 games at home in a row. They're the bottom at the Premier League for home form, and they're just chilled. They're like, it's fine, we'll come back. So like, why do Arsenal fans have to? Again, with Xhaka, he was on his best run of form for the club I've ever seen. It was like he played every game, and every other player was rested at some point except Xhaka. And yet he makes one mistake and everyone's like, oh, get rid of him. Get rid of him.
Yeah, it's frustrating. The Xhaka thing is frustrating for me because
it's a shame.
Look, it is a mistake, right? There's no getting away from that. And nobody is sitting here and saying it wasn't a mistake. And nobody's sitting here and saying that's acceptable. The problem is that the thing that I can't get my head around is, why is the reaction when Xhaka does it so different to when somebody else does it? Yeah. And if you could not see yesterday the impact that mistake had on Granit Xhaka, then you're blind, right? Yeah. It was so obvious. You know, he didn't want to get on the ball after that. And in the first half an hour of the game, I thought one of the reasons we were so dominant was because he and Thomas Partey were completely controlling
the midfield. They linked up for the goal as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They controlled the midfield so well. And all of a sudden, he's dropped his head. And you know why he's dropped his head? Because he knows what's going to come off of the back of that. He's been there. He's experienced it before. And we as a fan base have a responsibility to not put so much pressure on certain individuals that in an instance like that, where they have made a mistake, that they feel that they spend the rest of the game fearing what's going to come off the back of it. Yeah. And that was clear to me. And I think I said it on my review show of the game. If you haven't checked it out, it's the previous video, last podcast. If you're listening on the audio, check it out. But one of the points I made was that I feel as though his teammates around him, you know, especially the captain, Aubameyang, you know, you got to get there and support the guy, and you got to pick the guy back up. And, you know, the halftime whistle went, Aubameyang clearly sulking, walks down the tunnel, a couple of others as well. And you're just thinking to yourself, at that level, especially when you know there is a load of social media abuse and you know that there are no fans in the stadium, so that whole thing is amplified, that whole online reaction thing is a bigger deal than it normally would be. I think you got to get to your teammate, put your arm around him, and you got to be thinking about how you can help him get out of that hole. And there were players after that just looked disinterested.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a really weird one. This squad is so fragile. It's been like that for 10 years. It feels like Arsenal have been fragile from the days of Fabregas and Eduardo to Ramsey and Wilshere to Sanchez and Ozil to now. It's like as soon as something goes wrong, it's like at Arsenal, it's a disaster. From players, you can tell, like yesterday, you could tell that the players were just frustrated. It was the same when the Wolves game had the Louise, and then it seems that everyone's head dropped second half, and then of course Leno gets sent off. It's like as soon as something goes wrong, that's why the Benfica game was actually so surprising, because they had that Ceballos mistake and everyone would have bet like, oh, that's it, that's us out. And we came back, and again, you got Leicester, shocking goal conceded, come back and win, and you're like, this is momentum. So you can even understand more why Xhaka was so gutted, because we built up a couple of massive results. and that we didn't even lose, but obviously it feels like a defeat. So I feel sorry for Xhaka. And like you say, what I don't get why people get onto Arteta. He made the right team selection. We battered Burnley for 40 minutes, and people like Saka has been unbelievable this season, but that miss is a shocker from just in front of the goal. And he is allowed that because he's been exceptional. But yeah, I think Arsenal fans, they just react to every defeat's a disaster. And realistically, if we come and we get a good result against Olympiacos, fans will turn 360 and like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Granit Xhaka probably is a great game. Xhaka's back. And then we go and see what happens against Tottenham.
Yeah.
Oh, I just can't believe we're playing Tottenham next week.
It's just all so reactionary, isn't it?
It is.
Really
all
is.
Time.
Sam, thank you so much for joining me, mate. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon, mate. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Take care.
That was the brilliant Sam. And our next caller, my friend, where are you joining us from? What's your name, mate? Thank you for waiting so patiently, first of all.
It's all right. My name is Gunner Sahal. I usually on Eagles channel.
Okay, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. Thank you. But I have to say, I completely disagree with everyone here. I think Arteta, personally, I would have not hired him in the beginning, and I think he needs to be sacked end of the season. It's not. You guys are taking the season out of context. What happened to the other games that we've been terrible most of the games? I mean, the performances have not been there from the start from the season. We have not been good enough. You guys are you're making it sound like we've been playing well. You're making us sound like we're Liverpool, where you can probably excuse it because they've been great and fantastic for 2 seasons. We haven't been fantastic for a minute. We have not been fantastic. You can say the FA Cup run. Well, I can say, you know what? We can beat everyone. We can beat anyone, but we can lose to anyone. It's the same old Arsenal. We need a manager where the person is experienced to know what to do with the squad. Arteta is not experienced enough. And the ownership is also a problem, but we can't do nothing about the ownership. The only thing we can do is to get them to hire a manager who is experienced. I'm telling you right now, if we had a manager like Rafa or Carlo, we would be high up in the league. We would be almost fourth, I believe. We would be challenging for fourth. Our season will not be over. This is Arteta's incompetence. He's not. I feel sorry for him because I don't think he should have been hired in the beginning. He's unexperienced, and we threw him in the deep end, and he's sinking. End of the season, I don't know what they're gonna do because are they gonna back him? Which I don't believe is gonna happen. Every Arsenal fan believe he's gonna get backed. I don't think he's gonna get backed. There's no evidence for it. They're gonna do the same thing, what they done every single year. They're not gonna invest in properly. We're gonna be back here 6 months time. What's the point of it? We need to get experienced manager where we can at least give him some kind of players, and then he can do the best out of them. He can bring the best out of the players. I honestly think Arteta cannot do this job. He cannot do the Arsenal job. He can probably do another job like City. Anyone can probably do City, but he cannot do Arsenal's job. Arsenal job is just too much for him, unfortunately.
Okay, Sahal, let me. I'm really glad that you've called in because I wanted to get an alternative viewpoint, right, for the balance of the show. I'm delighted that you've joined us, and I'm delighted that your view is different, so that we can have a good discussion here. What I want to do first, quickly, just before we get into it, I want to urge you guys, if you haven't already, make sure you smash the like button. It is really, really important. Don't forget the podcast is sponsored by manscaped.com. So if you're in need of some deforestation down in the Forbidden Forest, then head over to Manscaped and get that order in. You can use our promo code, which is 90min20, and you'll get 20% off your order as well as free shipping. So do check that out. Right. I'm going to put some questions back to you, Sahal.
All right.
The group that Mikel Arteta has currently, actually, forget the group that Mikel Arteta has currently. The group that Mikel Arteta inherited, in your opinion, was it stronger or weaker than the one that Unai Emery inherited?
In my personal opinion, I don't think that I understand you can take it. You can say it was weaker, stronger. In the end of the day, Harry, I don't think it really matters what is stronger, what is weaker, because if we really look at it, the teams haven't changed a lot. Emery's team and Arteta's team hasn't changed a lot. And if you compare the team that we have right now, I think we should do much better than we have been doing. Even lately, the Wolves game comes to mind, the Villa game comes to mind, Burnley comes to mind. How many other games that we have drew or lost that I think we should have done better and we could have got a result? I know you can say missed chances, but especially start of the season, the tactics were not there. We were just completely confused. And I understand we never had a number 10 until Emmy Smith Rowe came on the scene, but it was still like, and that's what I mean. We did not invest in the summer. We needed a number 10. They didn't get us number 10 because who was there? Ozil was there. They didn't really care. The owners don't care about us. So
Yeah,
the
but
next
so
summer,
how you talk about the number 10 position, and I'm going to challenge you on this one because you say that they didn't get us a number 10. But Mikel Arteta didn't want to play with a number 10 because he had number 10s at the football club and chose to completely overlook them, even chose to freeze one of them out to the point where he wasn't even registered in the squad to play. So how can you then, after Mikel Arteta starts the season with a back three, the system that he used to win the FA Cup, which everybody was overjoyed about, he then starts the campaign and doesn't play with a number 10. And now you're complaining that the club didn't go out and get him a number 10. The minute he changed the system, which was against Chelsea on Boxing Day, to incorporate a number 10, that was on Boxing Day, the 26th of December. And when the January transfer window opened, within that window, Arsenal went and got Mikel Arteta a number 10, albeit on loan, but they still went and got him a number 10. So I don't understand the number 10 thing. You know, he had players at the club that could have played in that role if he wanted to play that way, and he didn't. And now you're saying that the club have messed up by not giving him that player. He didn't want that player.
Harry, there's no guarantee that he didn't want the number 10. And also the Ozil situation. If you look back when he started, Ozil started. If you cannot remember, if you remember clearly, Ozil actually started some games for us, and he came on for us on the bench. So clearly he wanted something that was on the number 10's kind of player. But we played with the back five in order to protect our back line. That's why we did it. We didn't do it to attack. We did it to protect ourselves. He was being he's trying to protect the back line and just counter attack, and that's how we won the FA Cup, and we did really well. But if you see at the beginning of the season, I know it was Boxing Day, but he clearly wanted someone there because he wanted Ozil to start, and then the owners clearly froze. I don't think he froze out Ozil. I think the owners froze Ozil out because they had a
So
disagreement about.
then you're acknowledging that Mikel Arteta has had a hard job because ultimately he's had to leave players out because the owners wanted him to. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying about the Ozil that in particular the Ozil situation, the situation with Mustafi, Kalashnikov, and basically they're all friends. So you can say whatever you like about them, but they were all important players for us. They all started for us at one point or another. They were all starting for us regular games, and then they all okay. You can say they were leaking stories, whatever. But when they left and we bought them off the contracts, we replaced one of them. We still needed a backup left back, and I understand that Arteta is having his hand tied behind his back. I'm not. I didn't say he hasn't. The issue is, who do you rather have? An experienced person that's in this similar situation, or someone with no experience? I'd rather have someone with full experience.
Yeah, and I agree with you. When Mikel Arteta was hired, I wasn't overly enthused by it. You know, the day I heard the news, I was a bit like, you know, and if you anybody who'd been watching or listening to the podcast back then would know that I really wanted Carlo Ancelotti to get the job. He didn't. And then I think as things began and things started to happen, you know, put last season aside, right? Because Mikel Arteta took over the job midway through, more than midway through.
Yeah.
Managed to finish it off by winning an FA Cup, which was brilliant. And this is his first full season in charge. Do you not accept that the fact that we're living in the middle of a pandemic, and the fact that we are, that the season was disrupted, there's been no pre-season. Do you not think all of those things have made the job more difficult for Mikel Arteta? Maybe someone more experienced might have coped with it better. But Arsenal, in appointing Mikel Arteta, knew, right, that this was a long-term project. Otherwise, you don't go and get a rookie, do you?
I have to say I kind of disagree because I believe they hired Arteta to get the cheapest option. They hired him to get the cheapest option because think about it. If you get Carlo or as what's his name, the Juventus ex-manager, they're gonna ask for assurances. They're gonna say, how much money are you gonna get in the transfer window? Arteta has zero power to ask what are you gonna get me for the transfer window, and I don't believe they gave him any assurances. So I think honestly they went to the cheapest option. They went to the cheapest.
So you think that Mikel Arteta has no power at the club? Why has he been promoted from head coach to manager then?
Because the results went up. Because we had better results. That's about it. If the results were not there, I don't think the FA Cup helped, and the results at that time were good. So they just gave him that was a pointless promotion. Come on, that was a point.
Not pointless. It's not pointless because
no.
It's not pointless because
I tell you why. What's
no,
the difference?
I'll tell you why, Sahal. It's not pointless because you're going from being someone who has no say over transfers like Unai Emery was, and are given players ultimately that you don't want, to being the shot caller, to being the guy who sits in the room with Edu and decides who it is that we're going to sign. So stay with me, Sahal, because I'm going to bring on a couple more callers, but I want to keep you here because I'm enjoying the debate. But that's the point I'm making. Everybody goes down this route of they hired Mikel Arteta because he's got no power and he's got no clout and he can't demand this and he can't demand that. If you bring in someone in because of that reason, because he hasn't got clout, then why would you then give him clout by giving him a promotion? That's my point. Let me just bring Albert in. Albert, how you doing, mate?
Not bad. Can you hear me, Harry?
Yeah, all good, man. You all right?
Good. Yeah, you think so? Yeah, I'm all right. Doing all right.
Good. I'm going to bring Jamie in as well, just because we're running out of time, so I don't want to miss anybody out. Jamie, how you doing, mate? Can you hear me?
I'm good. How are you?
All good, mate. All good. Welcome to the show, man. I think you're first time caller, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Jamie, let me come back to Sahal, and I'm going to come back to you guys in a moment. Sahal, I know you were going to respond to that point. Go ahead, mate.
Yeah, basically, I completely and utterly believe the promotion to head coach was a pointless one, and it's no reason. And I'll tell you why. You need to ask yourself, what was the difference between Emery and what's it called? Arteta. And the difference was the ownership model. We had different people when Emery was in charge. Edu wasn't even there. So when Edu came, he clearly wanted Arteta to get the promotion, and this promotion was valueless because he was already communicating with Arteta about the signings in the first place. Because you can clearly tell they were communicating and they were talking to each other about signings already. So what was the promotion was a valueless one. When
it's
Emery
not valueless, Sahal, because
when Emery was there, Sanelli, the German guy, he was the head of football. He was doing directly the signings, and then there was Raul. So Emery, you can say that, but with Arteta, you can't because the only director of football he had was Edu, and Edu had a close.
Yeah, but that's Edu. That's not. It doesn't matter if they've got a relationship. The point is, Unai Emery had no say in the players that he brought to the club. Unai Emery has since, and listen, I'm anti Unai Emery. I didn't want him in the first place. I didn't want him after 6 months. I didn't like the guy. I didn't think he was the right man. But where I've got sympathy for him is that he's come out time and time again and constantly spoken about players that he wanted the club to go after, and they didn't allow him to do that. They never trusted in Unai Emery enough as a football club to give him that responsibility. They've given it to Mikel Arteta, and then you're telling me that they're not backing Mikel Arteta. They went and put £45 million out of their pockets to bring Thomas Partey in during the middle of a pandemic when nobody thought that was going to happen, because they're backing Mikel Arteta. So whether we back him or not, the club are backing him. Jamie, let me come to you, mate. Where do you stand, first of all, on the whole Mikel Arteta debate?
To be honest, I just can't believe that we've got Arteta in the first place when Carlo Ancelotti was available, Champions League winner, experience, and we chose a manager that's never managed a competitive game before in his life. I just don't get it. Like I don't understand where we're going under Arteta. For me, I lost faith when he played Willian up front, when he had one of the best strikers in the world in Aubameyang in the squad, fit and available, and he played Willian up front against City. I got the same vibes I got when when Emery was playing Torreira as a number 10. It's just nonsense. I don't get it. And Saka, our best attacker, is playing as a defender. It's just all over the shop. Things have changed now, but it's too late now. We went 2 months without winning a game. So yeah, like when that happens, you go 2 months without winning a game. To redeem yourself, you have to go on an unbelievable run, and he hasn't done that.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that Mikel Arteta hasn't made mistakes. He absolutely has. I just think, and Albert, I'm going to bring you in, mate. What's your kind of take on it? I just feel like when you look at the last few months, there has been progress. That progress has not always been clear because the results haven't always been there. But I think when you scratch beneath the surface, the fact that we have shipped out some of the deadwood, the fact that we are starting to rebuild, and we are starting to play better football, for me, if a manager sets out a team and they go and defend to the point where they only concede really one chance of note, they create multiple opportunities, they have a really terrible call go against them, I don't know how you can then sit there and point the finger solely at the manager. Ultimately, listen, it's his responsibility. But for me, players are letting him down. And unfortunately, at Arsenal, we're not in a position where the board and the owners can say, here's 250 million, go and bomb out half the squad now, right now, tomorrow, and bring in 5-6 players that you want. It's just impossible.
Yeah, you know what it is, Harry. There's two occasions where I have felt sorry for Arteta, because yesterday was a perfect example with I don't think Arsenal were fantastic yesterday, but I think we played well for like 37 and a half minutes of the 90 before we conceded the goal. I mean, you can't legislate for that. I mean, that's just chaotic madness to concede a goal like that. And there was the game when we played the Wolves away, where we outplayed them for the first half, and then we put in a second half, which just comes out of nowhere. Obviously, we got down to 10 men, toward David Luiz being sent off, but it's things like that you can't control. But then on the flip side of that, Harry, with Arteta, he makes some strange decisions, man. What did you make of the substitutions yesterday? Do you think he was on point, or do you think he could have done them a bit sooner? What did you think, Harry, to that? To throw that question back at you.
I mean, I don't understand the obsession with substitutions, first of all, right? Ultimately, as a football manager, you start the game with a team that you feel is going to win the game, and you pick the best team for the job. Right, you look at the way Willian's played of late. I had absolutely no issue with him being in the starting 11. He was arguably our best player up at Leicester the week before. Had an impact in the Olympiacos game when he came on as well. You look on the other flank, everybody would have put Bukayo Saka in, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has rediscovered his goal scoring form and scored a goal again yesterday. So, the midfield pivot was the midfield pivot that 9 out of 10 people would have picked. Emil Smith-Rowe was unavailable, so Odegaard played. Pablo Mari and David Luiz looked pretty good together. The only questionable decision yesterday was the one to include Callum Chambers out of nowhere for me. But in terms of substitutions, I mean, he brought Nicolas Pepe onto the field, and Nicolas Pepe made things happen. He missed a glorious opportunity, but he got into the right positions. And how people can look at the substitutions, and it's the classic beating of the drum. Everybody's talking about Gabriel Martinelli. Every week they want to see Gabriel Martinelli come on. The reality is, Albert, that since Martinelli's come back, for whatever reason, largely down to fitness, he's not done anything that says he needs to be in the team. He's not done anything so amazing that you look at him and you go, wow, this kid needs to play every single week like Bukayo Saka's doing. You know, so an informed Pepe and an informed Willian should be ahead of him in the pecking order. So what's outrage about it?
Yeah, Harry, I get that, but I think sometimes there's other games where I look at it. For example, when we played Villa, I think that's a good example where Lacazette wasn't getting a tune out of the Villa defense. Aubameyang came on and was awful. We're still 1-0 down. I mean, I cannot understand for the life of me that you can't give Martinelli, who's a striker, 5 minutes. We're losing the game. So that's the flip side of it. I get what you're saying, but it's times like that. I think, well,
how many strikers are you going to throw on the pitch, though?
Well, you're losing the game 1-0. You might as well. I'd rather put him on than Willian as the option to bring on, who was desperately out of form at that period of that time when we played that game against Villa. So that's things where I do question Arteta and think, well, why can't he play for? I mean, I hear about the thing about the injury and nursing him back, but surely he can give us 5-10 minutes, Harry. I mean, that surely can't be too much to ask if you're losing the game 1-0.
I don't think it is too much to ask. You know, he can, but the point I'm making is, why would he be ahead of those guys in the pecking order based on what we've seen over the last couple of months?
Do you know the only argument? Sorry, Harry. You know the only argument for that, right? I understand Aubameyang's found a little bit of form, but generally, to me, looking at the striking options at Arsenal this season, I don't particularly think they've been very good. So he has an argument to actually give him more playing time, and you could even probably extend that to even someone like a Balogun, for example. I mean, I'm shocked he hasn't even got at least, I don't know what, 20-30 minutes off the bench at least. If I
accept that. I just think for me, and I'll come back to you, Sahal, on this one. You know, for me, I think there's this. It happened in the game against Olympiacos. It happened yesterday. Mikel Arteta makes a substitution during the game and everybody's up in arms about it before we've even had a chance to see if that substitution is going to impact the game in a positive way. The Olympiacos game was the classic case. I was doing a watch along on this channel for that game, and I cannot tell you how many people in the comments when Willian came on were going, oh, fuck this, it's over. Willian's come on, it's done. And then Willian goes and produces an assist. And Willian starts making things happen on the left-hand side. And all of a sudden, Arsenal go on and turn the game on its head and win the game. That's my point. I just want to see people be a little bit more, you know, you also got to take into account, we're not on the training ground with these guys every day. We don't know how fit they are. We don't know how unfit they are. We don't know the full picture all of the time. So how have you got an issue with the substitutions kind of thing that Mikel Arteta makes?
Personally, the substitutions, sometimes I do. I feel like he needs... Arteta is the type... He's opposite to Emery. Emery used to always do early subs. Like, Arteta, he doesn't do early subs. He doesn't do halftime subs. So and with Emery, to be fair on him, we had like the highest amount of goals on the bench, like substitution. So I think Arteta...
That's because he kept leaving Aubameyang on the bench.
But to be fair, sometimes Aubameyang is on our bench still. So I think he should actually still. We should use our bench in more different ways. Like if someone's ain't playing well, Arteta needs to take them out. Sometimes Bellerin doesn't do well. He stays on the pitch. Xhaka sometimes doesn't play well. Stays on the pitch. He takes Partey out for no reason. And it's a recurring team. Like he likes the same players to stay on for far too long. And sometimes Aubameyang doesn't do nothing. He stays on the pitch too long. Arteta needs to be ruthless with these players. If you're not playing well off the pitch, simple. Don't make it hard for yourself. If you're not showing your heart, if Aubameyang ain't not running around, and if he's not trying to get the ball, which he usually doesn't, off the pitch, you can't be in this team. Sorry. Just put Martinelli on, put Bellingham on, put Nketiah on. I'd rather see them if he's not trying.
Guys, I'm going to ask you guys one final question each because I've run over time. I'm going to come to you first, Jamie, mate. Assuming that the season doesn't dramatically change and Arsenal finish mid-table, fail to win the Europa League, would you pull the trigger on Mikel Arteta at the end of the season?
Yeah,
And why?
definitely 100%. I would do it because, like you said, 10th isn't good enough. Our squad isn't great, but in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that West Ham have a better squad than us, and David Moyes has got them a lot higher up the table than Arsenal. Everton is a bit more debatable, but I don't believe Everton have got a better squad than us. I just think they've got a better manager, and it's just ultimately it's not good enough for Arsenal Football Club. I mean, yeah, it's what's his name? He's learning his job on our time and our dime, and Arsenal just too much of a big club for that. I think we need an experienced manager.
I agree with you in the sense that we're too big of a club to have someone afforded the time to learn his job. I guess my counterpoint to that would be that we're kind of in the situation we're in because of bad management over a long period of time. And so we can be harsh on Mikel Arteta and we can demand more from him. But I feel like we're also asking him to do a job that is more difficult than your average job as well. Because of and I know, people will say, there's teams in the league with less finances, worse squads, etc., but not with this level of expectation. And coming into a job like this is challenging at the best of times. I think we were in such a mess that I think somebody very experienced, Unai Emery was very experienced, would also struggle to do this job. So that's kind of where I am on it. But Jamie, great points. And so I'm going to come back to you, mate. As I said, table stays as it is pretty much. Arsenal failed to win the Europa League. Are you pulling the trigger on Mikel Arteta at the end of the season, and why?
If the results stay the same, Arteta needs to get fired. End of the day, guys, this is a results business. We cannot be sympathetic. We cannot be, just because he's an ex-player, he needs to go. Like, simple. We need to get a manager in where he's experienced, that can actually manage the squad, get the best out of the squad, and hopefully we do better next season and we start again. If we win the rope, I think the only way for Arteta to stay is to win the Rope League. Anything else, I think he needs to go, because the season's over anyways. We're not going to get fourth. So he has to win the Rope League for him to stay.
Okay, Albert, same question, mate.
Harry, I think you probably know what's going to come out of my mouth for this question. You know what it has? What I will say, if you look at our three key senior positions at the club, right? Arteta, Edu, and Vinay, even though he's been at the club 10 years, they're all inexperienced. For that to be the case at a club the size of Arsenal is a shambles in itself. I said to you last time, before the last international break, that if the form continues, Arteta will be lucky to keep his job, but he kept it. If we finish mid-table, we don't win the Europa League, I don't care who the manager is. I think his position is untenable, because the thing is, in football, you're allowed to change your mind as a fan, as the owner of a club, directors, you're allowed to change your mind. So I think his job will be untenable, but I don't think Arsenal will get rid of him. That's the thing, Harry.
Yeah, I don't think they will either. Rightly or wrongly, only time will tell, but I don't think he's going anywhere either. I think whatever happens this season, Mikel Arteta can rest assured that he will still have the job next season. I think, for me, as I've always said, just to kind of wrap up with my view on it is that this season is a bit of a free hit. Shouldn't be, because we're Arsenal Football Club and there should never be free hits. But just given the way it's all panned out, the way things have happened, I think there has been some improvement both on the field in the last few months. Granted, that it wasn't really there before that. But I also think that there's been some improvements behind the scenes in terms of players who managed to move on. In terms of the fact that I think his recruitment has been better than that of previous managers. And I know not everybody thinks that his promotion to manager is significant, but it is, because he is now at that table. And Unai Emery was never at that table. And that is why he will be able to bring in players that fit with what he's trying to do. And you cannot underestimate the importance of having a cohesion between what the manager wants and the recruitment policy is so important. So for me, that is key. I think if we sack him, we're essentially starting all over again. But what I will say is the minute that first whistle blows in August for next season, the pressure is on Mikel Arteta. It really, really is. And there's no getting away from that. No matter how much you support him, no matter how much you want him to succeed, there's no getting away from it. If this season doesn't end in a Europa League victory, then for me, the pressure is really going to be ramped up on Mikel Arteta. And I will too, sit there and say, we need to start thinking about a potential sort of change here. But we're going to leave it there for now, guys. We've gone 10 minutes over. So thank you all for bearing with us. Thank you to Albert. Thank you to Gunnar Sahal. Thank you to Jamie. Apologies I couldn't give you guys more time, but I'm just trying to get everybody in. Thank you to everybody who showed an interest and joined on the show. Thank you to everyone in the live chat for all your great comments and for watching and for constantly supporting. Quick reminder, the podcast is sponsored by manscaped.com. Head over to Manscaped, use our discount code 90min20, that's 90min20. You get 20% off plus free shipping on your order wherever you are in the world. If you want to become a member of the channel, members get priority on our fans phone-in shows, then click on the link in the description. Make sure you hit the like button as well. That really, really helps. And we'll be back tomorrow with some more Arsenal-related content. Until then, take care. Ciao.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.